Well, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, wherever you are in on the face of this earth. And we want to continue on today with some more kind of the final, I think, the final issue with cnWave. We're going to take this time and let me just go here. All right, we're going to take and this time go through a really quick install process for Cn Maestro on-prem, and we're going to install the external Ede Controller. Yeah, it's a couple of months ago, but we talked about cnWave for the first time. And if you remember, one of the features of cnWave is that every device can have an Ede Controller in it, and you need the Ede Controller in order to manage the links that you create between devices. There's three kinds of devices on the network, right? There's the POP, the point of presence. There is a distribution node, a DN, and there are connection nodes, CNs. So in order to manage all of these, we have to take and have some sort of Ede controller. Now, the Ede controller that's built into cnWave is good for 20 devices, and that's it. So very small network. We can do point to points. We can do a DN to 2 or 3 CNs, that kind of stuff. But you run out of devices pretty quick when you have only a limit of 20 that you can manage. So Cambium have created an external Ede controller. This is it's a virtual machine. Uses an OVA file. They distribute it, I should say, as an OVA file. So we import the OVA file, and then we've got to go through a couple of updates to bring it up to latest and greatest standard, and some little bit of configuration in it, and away we go. So that's kind of the steps of what we're going to look at today. All right, so here's our network plan. Couple of changes from this. This is the reference network design that Cambium are suggesting with the external Ede controller. So over here on the right hand side, if I can mark it here, sure can. All right, so there we have our DNs and CNs. It signifies our RF network. We generally connect that to a gateway of some sort. And what's missing on this is that the traffic from the radio network goes from this gateway, goes out to the internet, or whatever the network is. So I'll call it just core for now. So it goes to the core. Then from the gateway, depending, there's a few depends on here now. The gateway connects to one port on the E2E controller. The E2E controller is designed to have 2 ports. One port is the gateway to Cn Maestro. So we have, the manager over on coming out of one port, and we have all the traffic and the control for the links coming out of the other port. Now, you don't need to run it in that mode if you don't want to run it in that mode. And in fact, I am not going to run it in this mode today as we look at my system that's already up and in place and working, and as we go through the process of going through the steps of building the new one. What I'm going to do, I do not have Ethernet 0, so we're going to cross that out. And my gateway here to Maestro, actually, let me just draw this here. I'll go down. My gateway to Cn Maestro is going to go here like this. So I have one. I'm using one port on the Ede controller, and this one port is going to handle the IP version 4 connections to Cn Maestro and to the layer 2 management of the radios. And then my gateway is also going to have a port that's going to take us out to the internet so that we can pass some kind of traffic over this link. So that's the two configurations that that I see most commonly as the common configurations here. All right. So first of all, the order of the day is to set up our download our files, which I've already done because the OVAs are huge. They're 3 gigs, so we would just barely have time in this. If I started the download process now, maybe by the bottom of the hour, they might be finished and ready to install. So I've already done that. They're sitting in the server that's going to handle them at this very moment. So I've got to install the E2E controller, and got to make sure that when we do Cn Maestro that we're up to 3.04 or higher, whatever that happens to be. So right now the cloud version of Cn Maestro is 3.1. So we can connect the external E2E controller to the cloud if we want to do that. We can also take and connect the external E2E controller directly to on-premise Cn Maestro, which is what, of course, we're going to do today. Now, at the moment, on-premise Cn Maestro is in fact Maestro X. So it's got some of the features of Maestro X that are going to be very handy, such as storing data for a whole year. The historical data that goes on your network for a whole year, rather than 7 days that the cloud stores data, the performance data off the network. So we're going to do the on-prem version. So there's the files, the list of the files. The on-prem, there's a couple more steps here. So we download the OVA. We take and also download the user guide. I always take the user guide with the version of firmware that we're going to do. So of course, when I first install this 3.0, I've got the backup manual here for 3.0. And then we're going to go through some patches and upgrades, and we're going to take it up to 3.04. And so we're going to take then and also have the user user guide for 3.0.4, I should say, when we get it up and running. All right. So one of the questions that I've had to answer a few times, and this is in the Cn Maestro user guide, is the hardware requirement for the virtual machine configuration. Now, the virtual machine configuration, this is the resources that we need to support this many devices. So a device, as far as Cambium are concerned, are in our case here now, they are POPs, distribution nodes, and the connection nodes. So the total of our network, if it's if our network, for example, is up to 1,000 devices, let's say 100 devices, here, then I would be expecting to have to provision 4 cores. I need at least 4 gigs of RAM, and I need at least 100 gigs of hard disk space. So the resource requirements actually for Maestro are quite low compared to other management systems that we can install. All right, so the Ede Controller, according to the user guide, says that it's got to take and meet these minimum requirements. So we've got our requirements for Maestro here. So I've got the small. If we're going to do a small network, let's say a small network, right here, we're going to do a number of we're doing 2 cores and 4 gigs of RAM. This is the default that gets deployed when we import the OVA as it is downloaded from the Cambium support site. All right, so back to the controller itself, the Ede controller itself. 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and it creates 2 by 40 gigs of disk space, which it creates them as a dynamic space. So you need to have at least 80 gigs of hard drive space that's available for this machine. I do not need to pre-configure any of this. All of these requirements are pre-configured in the settings in the OVA as we import the OVA. You'll see. Now, the network tools that are required, of course, remote desktop access to the device that your device is, servers that you want to install Cn Maestro and the Ede Controller on. Much easier than just having command line access through SSH, but so I recommend that you're able to do that. You can use the operating system of your choice for your VM host. Whereas Linux, I've used Proxmox before and like it as a VM operating system. But you can use the distro that you're most comfortable with, whether it's CentOS or Ubuntu or whatever it happens to be. For Windows, recommend Windows Server, but Windows 10 or 11 can be used. In my case, that's what I'm doing here in my lab, is I'm using just Windows 10 or 11, Windows 10 actually, and got to make sure that sleep is disabled. You don't want your server going to sleep on you. The firewall can be enabled. We do not need to cut holes in the firewall or anything else for what we're going to do here, and make sure that auto logon is used in case the Windows gets taken down for, I don't know, updates, for example. Might want to restart. You might want to restart it. And if you don't have auto logon used, then you're going to have to manually take and restart the containers after your host computer has had a restart. So Cambium is very flexible when choosing this VM host program. They do not really care what you use in there. So the manual specifies the VMware and ESXi, as well as VirtualBox, which we're going to use here. We're going to use VirtualBox. And someday when I have a whole bunch of time and not much else to do, I'll make it work here and work out the solution for Hyper-V. So it's a little bit more complex of a VM until you get used to it, and I've not ever tried it in Hyper-V in Microsoft's built-in virtual machine. So then we need an SSH terminal or a file transfer program. So I recommend Bitvise. Long time ago, an ex-colleague of mine introduced me to Bitvise, and I've used it ever since. So I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe something like that. Because when you open up an SSH connection to a device, it also opens up a graphical file transfer window, as well as the command shell. So that I've got I log into the device, I get a command box and a terminal box, and I get the graphical interface to transfer files to and from. And so it makes it quite handy then to be able to take and move these files in and out of the virtual program. All right, so this is what we're going to do first. We're going to create a VM for Cn Maestro. We're going to import the 3.0.0 OVA. And for some of you on here, I apologize beforehand here that this is a very simple process, but I'm hoping that there's going to be some people on here that have never done this before, and just to go through the Cn Maestro installation process. It's really simple. It's the number of times that I've done it, it's very reliable and works great. And out of the box, it integrates easily into your network environment, and so away we go. The final thing that Cambium want you to do is I want you to create a cloud account and onboard the on-prem account into that cloud account. An on-prem account complains that it doesn't have a cloud account partner if you haven't done this. So there's a method of setting up the cloud account to manage or to list the on-prem accounts that you have. So you can have many on-prem accounts, and you can associate them together with the cloud account, lists them out, and then gives you some basic stats on how many devices you have, that sort of thing. And it also gives your network a way to get at software that is part of the cloud to be able to install them on your devices on the that are onboarded onto your on-prem Cn Maestro. So it's at first I thought that this was kind of a redundant sort of thing, but nevertheless they want you to do that, and so I've got one set up, and so we'll attempt to connect our Cn Maestro to that account as well, so that it shows up there. All right, then we get to the E2E controller itself. So we're going to, again, import it exactly the same way. We're going to take and go through some initial configuration in which we initialize the controller. So the controller asks for a few bits of configuration information, not really very much. And then you press an initialize button, and it does its little thing, and it starts all its little sub processes, and when it comes back, there it is. You can onboard it then into Cn Maestro, and then the rest of the configuration of the network is actually handled through Cn Maestro at that point. You do not need to take and stay logged into the controller for anything after the initial configuration is done. Cn Maestro will then take and look after all of that. So you want to set up the automatic IP version 6 routing and some other features, which we'll go through in Tech Talk today, and show you how to get to the point where you can bring equipment on. Now, I don't have enough equipment to take and move stuff off of the controller that I have. This screenshot that I've got here, this controller that you see here in my working version on-prem Cn Maestro is I've got a point-to-point of two V1000s in here, because I've taken my V5000 and one of my V1000s, and they're off doing show and tell up in a trade show today. So I have a slimmed down cnWave network here in my lab. All right. So then you build your network. So you have a choice at this point as to whether to use layer 2 Gre tunnels or not. I recommend using the Gre tunnels, and that lets you do your configuration and static IP addressing in IP version 4 using private addresses. There's no need for any public addresses on the network here whatsoever. Once we're behind that gateway, then of course they can all be private addresses, and from the subscriber's point of view, they have no idea, because of the fact it's a layer 2 bridge, a Gre tunnel to each connection node. Whatever services you present to the gateway of the network here are what you can deliver to your customers. You can take and use in-band management and put the management of the DNs and CNs into a VLAN, so that almost all other equipment, you can do in-band management in a VLAN, and then just have normal untagged traffic be delivering services to your subscribers. Or if there's you want to use PPPoE or whatever it is that you're using to be able to take and authenticate your subscribers, of course you go ahead and do that. It's no big deal. The IP version 6, the network, as you remember from the very first introduction to the network, it is IP version 6 based. So the Gre tunnel endpoints are IP version 6 addresses. And so the system uses 64-bit addresses that it automatically applies to every device as you bring it onto the network. So the only thing that we really have to do is we have to manually configure the first POP. And there's an easy way to do that. So we take, once the Ede controller is up, we download a file from the Ede controller, and this little text file, a little JSON file, and we use that file to configure the connection parameters in the point of presence. And then the point of presence will be connected then to the Ede controller. We'll see it, it'll come up and turn green on the map, that kind of stuff. And then as we create sites, we use Cn Maestro. We create, once we've created a site, we create a node, and in each site, whatever type of equipment that it happens to be, V5000, V3000, or V1000. And then we link the ones together that we want to link together. We have an opportunity as we build these links to tell the Ede controller that this is a backup link. I have a primary link that goes one direction. I'm creating a backup link to go another direction. I can label it as that, and then that's how we build the link database within the Ede controller. And then if something happens to an active link, the Ede controller then knows what to use for the backup link in order to take and find another way to get to that particular site or those particular connection nodes, whatever the case happens to be. Plus, I'm using IPv4 management for all the addressing in here because of the layer 2 tunnels. All right, to the demo. So here we are. So we'll do Cn Maestro first, then the Ede controller, and then at that point we'll look at the end result here of the network in operation. So let me take and stop sharing here, and let's go share another screen. All right, boop-a-doo right here, and I want to go up here to screen 2. All right, so let's share that. All right, so there we are. So I'm purposely making this as simple as I can here. So I have a Dell Precision Workstation, a 7510, that I'm going to use as my my VirtualBox host here. So let me open up VirtualBox. There it is. And so we'll import Maestro first. So with VirtualBox, very simple. Just import an appliance. I can point to the appliance I want. Happens to be in my downloads, wherever they are. Downloads right there. All right, so there's my Cn Maestro appliance. All right, so I have an opportunity to change anything that I might want to if I'm building a bigger network or whatever the case happens to be. But these are the appliance settings that are in there right at this very moment. All right, so let me just import that the way it is. And of course, I'm going to agree. And so here it goes. So it takes a minute or two, not too long. So it's 1 minute remaining here. Well, Windows counting up the wrong way. The more it gets done, the longer it says it's going to take. Just you have to love that. But so right now it's creating the VM. It's unpacking this OVA and doing the things that it needs to do. And of course, see here it skips right along. If at any point I want to go, oops, I can hit that X, that red X, and I can stop the process. And oop, there it is. All right, so I have my Cn Maestro. Now I want to take and make sure of my settings. It's good practice to especially, all right, make sure that I've got some base memory that are configured to it. There's my 2 CPUs. Accelerator is on default. That's fine. Display. select whatever display that it is that I want. So the default is VirtualBox VGA. And then finally here, network. I want to make sure that I'm bridged because I have a couple of choices, right? I can do an internal, I can do NAT, I can do all kinds of things, but I want to bridge my adapter. And then I've got two interfaces on this particular server. Actually, I got more NAT, but I've got two interfaces that I really want to use here. So it's either I want to take and use one or the other Ethernet connection here. So I've got a gigabit Ethernet controller here, and I've got a built-in connection here that's Intel, motherboard's Intel, of course, that I want to use. So I'm going to put it on the Intel. All right, let's start it up. Why did it fail? All right, let me go here to settings. VirtualBox VGA. Should be that. Try that again. Nope. Of course, this is a demo, right? So it's going to be trouble for me. So let's take and just go to .9. Admin, and then it prompts you to change the password to something else. So it won't let you stay at admin. It wants you to be something else. So of course I just have a simple processing here. So here's my working version of this. Okay, so over here, not sure if you could see that or not, but it doesn't matter. My working version at this moment. So here's the front page, got a map on the front page, and of course this Cn Maestro is good for all of Cambium's equipment that can be onboarded onto Cn Maestro, but I'm only using it at this very moment. I'm only using it for my cnWave equipment. So I've got two devices, none are down, and everything's fine. So here's where I configured it yesterday and got it in this configuration after I gave away my V5000. So I can go to my there's my sites and my E2E controller. So we'll get to that point in just a second here. My E2E controller, if I look at the configuration of it, here I've got my prefix allocation is deterministic because I'm not advertising from my gateway. I am letting the system look after it itself. So my prefix allocation, my IP version 6 prefix allocation is deterministic. Comes up with this link local address, an FD00 address here. I click on I generated that by clicking on this generate, and it will take, every time I do that, it will take and give me a seed prefix that's in this FD00 CEED network, and it's a 56-bit mask that it's going to generate here as the seed. I am going to give 64-bit addresses to all of my devices that are out there. So the prefix length 64. A long time ago, I did a little tech talk on IP version 6, And I talked about Slack, one of the ways of automatically determining IP version 6 IP addresses. The smallest mask that you can advertise and propagate by Slack is a 64-bit mask. So that's just exactly what it does then. Uses this 56-bit as the seed, and generates 64-bit addresses for my tunnel endpoints in every every cnWave device that I attach to my network. All right, so I've turned on the layer 2 bridging. So that means that I'm going to create a GRE tunnel between every device. So every link has a GRE tunnel associated with it. And my IP version 6 addresses are delivered by Slack. I have a choice of, if I pick this as centralized, I could use a DHCP version 6 relay agent if I put in my gateway, but Slack is easy. And so that's what I'm doing here in my lab, is I'm propagating it through Slack. And my tunnel concentrator is the best POP. In my case, in my lab network, I have one POP. But in your network in the field, you might have more than one POP. And so the tunnel concentrator is going to figure out what the lowest metric is to each POP from every point, and then it's going to use that as the tunnel concentrator of the best POP. I set the NTP server. So there I've used ca.pool.ntp.org, and I've set myself up in the Mountain Time Zone. And because it's in my lab, I have disabled the scheduled beam adjustment. No need for that in the lab here when I'm only going, 5 or 10 meters, whatever it is, across my lab. And in the field, though, you would enable that, and you would pick some kind of interval. Those are seconds, right? So 14,400 seconds, or is the standard. You can make that longer, shorter, whatever it is that you want to do. And so that's really it. That's the configuration in the E2E controller. I wish to proceed. All right. So I have SNMP enabled. I'm not using it for anything. So of course I have no parameters there. As far as security goes, on the network, I can take and specify that I have the no wireless security, or I can specify PSK, or I can point to a radius server. That's my 3 choices, right? And then in these controllers, there is advanced settings here that I don't know of any reason that I might want to play with anything in here. However, it does give you an indication as to how complex the configuration is, what some of the parameters are. And as you scroll down these, you see the name of the variable, the field, what the description is, and whether or not it's a set point or a get point, get or set, and what the value happens to be. And then should you have the urge, you can actually edit that point. If there's some reason, maybe Cambium support wants you to set something in here, well, then I can take and I can edit those advanced configuration points, and I have the same the same for the actual process in the EDE controller. And I see I do all that. All this is from Cn Maestro. So the as you can see, the on-premise version is Maestro X, and I have the usual display of I have announcements here that I can I don't have any at this moment. No announcements. I've had a couple of different alarms, a couple of different major alarms in here, which have now gone away. And there I have the last thing that I onboarded was a V1000 as a distribution node onto the network. So I can see that list lasts for 7 days, and then at 7 days it goes away. And of course, this is where I approve it claim that I approve the device as it onboards. If I have any software update jobs going on, I can see them there. And finally, if I've got any devices that are out of sync. So as far as Maestro, just for a little lesson, Maestro considers something out of sync when the configuration in the field doesn't match the configuration in Cn Maestro. So oftentimes with Wi-Fi, I see networks out of sync when somebody's logged into a Wi-Fi access point, changed the configuration in it, and since the field, this is netconf, this is this particular network management ensures that the field is the master device. Cn Maestro is the device that just displays and accounts for and gives us a method to change it if that's what we want to do. So when it's out of sync, Cn Maestro always considers the field device, the field configuration to be the correct one. And then when we go to sync now here, if there was a device and we go to sync now, what Maestro does is asks for the entire configuration from the field, and when it downloads it, it then updates its files here so that it is then in sync with what's in the field. All right. So as in the cloud version, I have inventory. So there's my 2 sites that I have, and there's the IP version 6 addresses. Whoops, let me expand that. That's the addresses that were processed using Slack from the E2E controller. So you can see here that my one V1000 has an address of A600, and then the 2 colons indicate that those are all zeros, 4 zeros, as many times as I take to get 8 terms here. And the second one is A601. So that's the 64-bit subnet mask is right there. So in this particular network, as I add devices to it, it would be A602, A603, A604, so on and so forth, and until I got up to actually up to FFFE, I think is probably as high as it would go in this as far as the addressing goes. There's lots of room in here for lots of devices. That's the bottom line in doing it this way. All right, my onboard screen again, and then I'm not using anything else here. So one thing I do want to show here in administration under server, I have the settings that I'm using in Cn Maestro. So I give the system a name. In this case, that's default. I enabled SSH access to the server, so I can take and log in through a command line into the server. I enable an NTP server so that I've got time to the outside. I have not configured a mail server to send me out alarms, and I could do a custom security banner during login, which of course I have not done. It's just that login banner that you saw there was just the standard for the factory default, I should say. All right. So here in operations, I have a bunch of controls here for this particular VM, so I can reboot it. That's right from inside the program here. I don't need to log into my VM manager to reboot the virtual machine if I needed to update it or whatever the case happens to be. I can do a backup. So I have completed a backup, and so I've got it listed here. My next one is scheduled for November 23rd. So I back it up weekly. You can back it up daily if that's what you want to do, and then I can take and select a file to restore if something were to happen to Cn Maestro and I had to rebuild the package. I could take and restore the configuration from one of these backups to a new copy of Maestro. Now, the part that's important here that I wanted to get to is this process for doing an update. So I can download an update from Cn Maestro Cloud, which is the reason for that connection to Cn Maestro Cloud, or I can take and download the file from Cambium support site and install it from here. So if I go to select a package file, it opens me back up to my file manager. And if I go back to downloads, let me just open that up a little bit bigger. Here in downloads, my Cn Maestro package 303 and 304. There was a security notice that came out for onboard Cn Maestro that asked you to do 303. So of course, when I updated this particular version of it, I went through 303, and then I went to 304, and all we have to do is select that file. Let me just do this. I'll select the file. I won't press go, but so there it comes into the points to the package file, and then I hit apply update, and I apply the update to the VM. So I don't need to take the VM offline. I don't need to take and download another OVA. So once I've got this OVA in and working, which we can see here, I'll open up that. There's the OVA that I initially installed, and I have one partition. I have that OVA active on that one partition. And so again, I uploaded this from local when I imported, of course, the way you saw, and Maestro knows that. So that's really the process now to enable Cn Maestro. If you have questions, then feel free to send an email to marketing@mbsiwave.com, and we'll be happy to answer any question that you might have regarding the process that I've shown you so far. All right. So let's let's take the next step here. I don't want to go there. I want to go here, close all of this. Go there. All right. So let's do the same thing now for let's import the Ede controller. Its process is a little bit different. Downloads, and there's the Ede on premise. So let's do that. Okay, so there we are. Again, it's going to go 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, so on. There it is. And let's just go through the import process. Let's see if this one runs. In a live demo, you have to love the whole process of waiting. It's but there it is. It'll get here in a second. Kind of the same process as before. The first little part of this import takes a while, and then after it gets to be somewhere around 40 or 50% done, then it scoots right along. All right. So there's the Ede installed. So now I can start this. I should be able to start this. No, sir. So I have an issue with my installation of VirtualBox. I tried this yesterday, of course, and it all worked perfectly. But I don't know what happened overnight. It's a demo, so of course, why not? All right, so let's go back and look at my other one here. We can do it from this computer, and the Ede Controller. If you log into it from the web server perspective, I want to show you this. 172.29.120.2, I believe. I guess. This is what you see. So you have you have the when you log into the web server in the Ede Controller, you have the documentation and the contract and all sorts of other stuff that whether you consider to be important or not, but there it is. So this is not made to, there's no GUI to the Ede Controller. There's only the ability to log into through SSH. So let's go. I think I can do it from here. SSH admin. Nope. Cambium at 172.29, 120.2. For sure. Password is cnWave. And I come up with this. So this is my interface to the Ede Controller. So first pops up with the status. Normally at the beginning here, of course, all these are blank. There's nothing here. There might be there might be an IP address that is a link local address that's using on this case Ethernet 0. Our port Ethernet 0 is the link local address that's applied to that port. My management information. Cn Maestro, I'm pointing to my onboard controller. So that's the 120.9 that we were just logged into here. And all I have to do is, we'll see in a second here, is just point to that IP address. And then I've got some management information here. So I configured, or I allowed my DHCP server to give this an address of .2. In my lab here, I use DHCP for all sorts of stuff that you normally would probably statically assign out in the field. And so then I've got DNS servers, I've got another address prefix, and I do not have an IP version 6 gateway because I have taken and set in my configuration in Maestro, I've taken and set it to layer 2. So if I, let's go here to the menu. All right, so information is where we were. Here's the Cn Maestro configuration. So there I set the whether it's a cloud or whether it's the on-premise version. So I'm using on-prem here, of course. In cloud, I would have to have my Cambium ID and my onboarding key in order to bring it on into Cn Maestro cloud version. My network interfaces, I have 2 interfaces here, IP version 4 and version 6. Now I have a static IP address here, IP version 6 address, that is the default that's configured from the controller itself, generated off of partly generated off the MAC address of Ethernet 0's port. So if I'm in this particular case, I could take and configure my IP address to a static, or I can leave it as DHCP the way that it is. If it's static, I can go back to DHCP. So it's just a case of going down the menus and setting up as we need to for this particular for our particular network. So I've got a static address. I am using a static IP address, of course, the link local address. I can disable the IP configuration altogether, and I can add routes to this if I need to be able to take and get out. In this case, now the wonderful thing about this is that in my Cn Maestro configuration, I look after this. I do not need to take and get too much in the weeds here at this point. Once I have this static IP that's configured, by default, I'm good for IP configuration. That's all that I need. So I need my IP version for my management, and I need a point at Cn Maestro. That's it as far as that's concerned. So let's go back. All right, in server settings, all I've got is the NTP server. So I got to point that to an NTP server, which of course I can do from Cn Maestro. Everything else from here I can do from Cn Maestro. The one thing that is important here is the shell. I just want to point out the shell. The shell is a regular Linux shell. There's nothing fancy about that at all. So this is a particular folder. I got my downloads in there. So if I want to just for example list what's in my downloads, there it is. There's my external package. That's all I've got in that download folder right at this very moment. Is this the final upgrade package that I did, the 1.2 beta package. That's what that B3 stands for, and I did the update. So when we back here on slide 10, there is a let me go back here, and if I want to do an update for this, I can do it from the shell here, which is where I did this update from. Oops, let me get back in here. Sudo. Let's just go back to we need space. There we go. All right, back to where I came into the shell on. So sudo server bin. The command is in a file called cnWave 60 for 60 gig dash image, and then I want to do patch. The modifier here is patch, and then I want to take and just copy the name of the update that I want to do. And when I hit enter here, this will take and update the package to that particular package. So what I need the bitwise for is to create this downloads folder, which isn't there, and then I want to take and upload the file to the Ede Controller, and then run it from this command. And when I do that, then the Ede Controller will take an update, restart, and whatever the features and and what we have there is available to you. All right, let me put that to bed just for now. Let's go back to to Cn Maestro again. 72.29.120.9. All right, so there I am, admin, and it forced me to change my password, so it's not admin. There we are. All right. So when I go I can take and from the controller itself, I can update the software, my devices out in the field, which you can see I've got the beta version in my two devices that are in the field out here. That's active. There's two in the list here. 1.1, which is what you need to make the network go. Your cnWave devices might come with 1.0 in it, depending on when they were manufactured. So first thing to do is update it to 1.1. And in my case, I went up to the beta version of 1.2, and away I go. Here on the three dots, if I click on the three dots, I get to the same place. One thing I want to show here, this download the POP onboarding configuration. So I'll just open this file. See what's here. Look for now more up. I want to use Notepad. Where's Notepad? Right there. All right. So there's the contents of that file. So you can see that the name of the server is there. The IP version 6 address. This is meant to go into a POP. So the syntax here, it specifies that, and so there's a MAC address. There's an IP version 6 address to connect to assign to the POP, and then I've got no gateways, I got no network prefix. I'm not using border gate protocol, so I don't have any BGP routing information. The interface in the cnWave device is called NIC1. There's up to NIC9 are in the device. NIC1 happens to be this interface, and then the IP address that I assign to it here when I create the configuration for the POP is then in this file. So when I log into the cnWave device for the first time, one of the things that I can do here, let me close this. Let me go to the device itself. Oops. So here IOIO is my POP. Under configuration in my POP, in network, you can see that I've taken and all of that configuration is there. And I could manually do it, or I really don't want to do that. So let's log into this device. So this device is 110. So let me go here and let's do this. So HTTPS 172.29.120.10. And here we are. And this device, once I log into the device in the field, Cambium standard now applies for factory default. Sign in as admin. And so there it is. Okay. So in the first time that we looked at cnWave and got a link working, of course, we did it all from this from the dashboard and from the configuration parameters that we've got here. So here in the POP, once I define this as the point of presence, then here. So once I define this as a point of presence, then I have the ability then at that point to import the onboarding configuration. So this is where I point to that file that I created right there. I point to that file and I hit open, and bingo, I have a connection. Then all of the IP addressing information is filled in from this file. And then at that point, I can hit save, and I'm going to hit cancel because I'm not going to do anything here. And if we go to configuration, then all of this networking information, there it is, right? 110, the 24-bit subnet mask, gateways 254. I'm doing static routing, not BGP. And all of that was in that file. So the moment that I hit save, then at this point, this device would go from let's go to the dashboard here. We show. So there's the point of presence, right? The point of presence icon. Then I've got a V1000 DN, and I've got a V1000 CN that's at the other end of this particular link. And so this would be read up until the point that I finish that off. I've got the configuration in here because I've taken from Cn Maestro, I have added a site. So I've taken and created a site in here. And then from that site, I've added a node, and here in the node, give it a name, tell it whether it's a DN or CN or the POP, and I give the MAC address of the device that I'm actually assigning to this site, so that I need to know my MAC addresses, and tell it what it is. So there's my three cnWave devices. Pick one, and for the maps purposes, I give it an azimuth and an elevation, and I can take and specify the IP version 4 management address of this particular device. This particular device. And the moment that I have all that information filled in, I hit save, and boom, that node is then assigned to that site. So in this particular case, I named the POP node IOIO because it happens to be in an IOIO cabinet that I have, a Bantam cabinet that I have. It's a V1000 in this particular case. And I manually configure the POP through that my quick start and my import onboarding configuration, and it's there. So what do I do next? I take and I add another site. So I add a second site. So in this case, I've got a point-to-point. So I've got two sites. One is called speaker tree and the other is called IOIO in this particular case. You would take and maybe have more sites than that. You give a name to every place that you're going to install a cnWave device. And then I did the same process. I added a node to that process, and so you can see it's exactly the same, except that this time I would specify it to be a CN, and again, MAC address of that actual device, and give it an azimuth and an elevation for the map, and an IP version 4 management address, and away I go. I hit save, and I populate that site with that node. So then the final thing right here from Cn Maestro is I take and I add a link. So I can pick a site, and it automatically lets me know what MAC address is there. Pick a second site, and it tells me what's out there. And then this is where I select whether it's a backup or it's a primary link. So in my case, the link that I've got here now is primary. This is going to give me an error, of course, because I can't do a backup and a primary on the same two devices. So since I only have two devices on my network, I don't want to actually finish this configuration. But there it is. I create a link, and so I hit save again, and that link is created. And I can take and pick my nodes. Let's go to these nodes. I can modify the configuration of these nodes. So there's the basic information, right? The MAC address, the elevation, and azimuth. Under radio, pick whether it's short range or long range. I can pick the MCSs that I want the network to operate under, and I pick the channel and the polarity or the TDD configuration of the device, and the GOLE code of the DN, and again, hit save when I've changed it. My network configuration, there's the IP version 6 configuration that I got there, and the only other one is the IP version 4, which I can take then and configure that to whatever it is that I want to. I got some features where I can take and disable broadcasts and other stuff because I'm using layer 2 in here. Here is where I would enable management VLAN, so I would enable that and give it a VLAN ID and then some value of priority. And if I was doing Q and Q, I would add the outer tag, the service tag. So this is the CVLAN. And if I add the SVLAN to that, then I can do Q and Q type to this particular device, and very flexible, very flexible. Yes, I wish to proceed. I don't want to do anymore. Okay, so then under security here, I can have a private key, or I can have a radius username and a radius password, if that's how I want to take and authenticate this device. And again, the same. I have in advanced, I have access to every parameter that's in that unit. I can take and look at it if so I can see the ports that are being used. I can see, you know, all kind of stuff, everything that's going on in the radio. And if there's something that I wanted to change, I can hit the pencil over there, and I can take and change that value if there was some reason to do that. I can display it as a table, or I can display it as a JSON file, the same as the import configuration file. Just wanted to show that. Okay, so we've created a link, right? And if when this comes up, you see my A node and my Z node. That's what they call them. One end of the link is A node and Z node, and then it lists the MAC addresses of that, and it will say alive or yes or no. And so at first, when you first bring the link up, you might be able to get here and it not be fired yet, but it's going to be real close. And so it's going to show no at first, and then when the link comes up, it's called ignition. When ignition occurs, the link comes up and it says yes. Now, so I got the list of my links, and then I can go to the statistics for the particular link. If I'm going from the device, it's going to show me the link from this device to the other end of the link. And so you can see in my case here, I've got, you know, -50 dBm RSSI, I got 23 dB signal to noise ratio. I am on modulation level 10. I have 2 to 12 to play with, and I'm on modulation level 10. That's because in my office here, the walls are so reflective for the 60 gigahertz that I've got RF spewing all over the place. Transmit power very low at 6 dBm. My ERP, because the gain of the antennas that are in this thing is 13 dBm, and there's the transmit MCS is 9. So the other end is telling me that. How do I see both at the same time? I go here to the Ede Controller, and I look at the statistics here at the Ede Controller, and there I see the link in both directions at the same time. Get a little bit more information here: how long it's been up, and what port that it's actually using. So the V1000s, of course, only have the main port. They only have a GigE interface. But the V5000 and the 3000s have 3 ports. They've got the main, they've got the auxiliary, and they've got the SFP. And so typically on a POP node, you'd bring the network into the system using a 10 gig SFP plus, and so you would enable the SFP plus port on here. It would be green also, the fact that it's up. And is this the POP node? Yes. This one is not the POP node. And as we scroll across, then if there was GPS information here, like a V5000, even in my office here, it'll lock on to anywhere from 7 to 13 satellites, and then I would have the type would be a GPS lock, and my satellites track number of them, and what the latitude, longitude, and the actual elevation of the V5000 here in my statistics. So if this were a V5000 to V5000 link, then I would have information for all of my mesh links. They would show where they are, what the satellite is, that kind of stuff, what the fix is. And if the device is a CN, the fix type is going to be RF always, because it's going to come from a DN. The synchronization comes from the DN as far as the RF devices are concerned. When they're V5000s to 5000s or 5000s to 3000s, and the 3000 is a DN, you configure it as a DN, then its GPS would be active, and of course it would be using that to synchronize itself. Otherwise, if the V3000 is a CN, it's going to be an RF fix, because it's going to get the synchronization from its V5000 that it's connected to. Anyway. So that kind of that's the wherewithal of getting a network up and getting it running. I apologize that my download and didn't start up right away, but there's probably just some little configuration parameter that I need to set. But at any rate, that's the process of getting your external Ede controller, your onboard on-premise, I should say, on-premise Cn Maestro operating. If I go to, just to show you, here's my Maestro account, that the MBSI Lab on-prem version here, and so there's the Cn Maestro that I have. It's online, and here's the onboarding key that I need to supply in the on-prem version to be able to take and bring it online, and users that are authorized to use it here, and that's it. That's what we have. So I think that's it. I think that's good for today. Again, if you have any questions about this, I know I went through this really fast, but there's a lot of stuff here, and feel free to send an email, marketing@mbsiwave.com, and we'll do our best to answer the questions. And normally I can show you a live network with V5000 and 3000s in it, but as I said, my V5000 is often shown tell. And anyway, that's I think that's Tech Talk for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining, and have yourself a really good day.